Hi everyone, welcome. I'm down here in my wormery preparing to check in on one of my worm bins. It's the mixed bin of worms. By mixed bin of worms, I guess I mean that common mix that a lot of people use with the red wigglers, the European night crawlers, and the blue worms. So I'm just getting my camera equipment ready here. There's the close-up for the springtails, and then the old trusty GoPro. Alright, well, let's go get the one that we're going to be working on and get it out onto the bench so we can get to work on it. Now you can see from the sticker on the system, it's up there in age. It's actually now 10 days away from reaching its 1 year in service, and it was 10 days ago that we checked in here when it was still T-minus 20 days. So here we've got a dead worm, unfortunately, resting out on the resting in peace, I hope, out on the top surface. And it's funny, I saw this little paper clip over here. I thought it was another worm. This little guy is still pretty pliable. Must have just made it out onto the dry and got stranded there recently. I never know, because you know there's other shelves above this system where the worms could be coming from, so I'm never quite certain if it's a worm that just crawled out of the existing system or plopped in here from an above system. So we delivered the last feeding in here 10 days ago inside of little cardboard tubes. So there was some cucumber, some banana peel. The stuff I've got for them today is stuff like more potato peel, or more banana peel, some potato peel, and chunks of cucumber as well as chunks of broccoli. And you know, instead of using the cardboard tubes, I got a whole bunch of coffee filters. Maybe we would deliver some of the food in little bundles again, but this time in coffee filter bundles. So the one thing we'll probably expect to still see plenty of leftovers of is some of the bedding materials. Besides the cardboard tubes, we put some soaked napkins on top as well. So we can already see some of the tubes over here holding up pretty good. The stuff that I soaked this paper towel with was all the juices of the cucumber that was like spilling out of the frozen cucumber that had been left to thaw for perhaps a little bit too long. So all the fluid was collecting down in the little transport container. So I just sucked it all up, and this was pretty much soaked with cucumber juice, which I thought would definitely increase its appeal, and I believe it was much larger 10 days ago when we put it in here. And then not only did we jam the food inside of the cardboard tubes, we also created little food bundles. Here again, plenty of springtails hanging out. Man, I don't know, but for some reason it doesn't seem like we got quite so many now, does it? Well, I guess there's still some over here within the material when you excavate a little bit. You know, let's see if we can get a close-up of what's happening over here. Yeah, we've got definitely got some springtails hanging out on this bundle too. I think they're springtails. That's why I like to shoot this close-up video, but I guess you know, just off-the-cuff observation I felt like I was about to make, and I was just worried about jinxing it by saying it out loud, was that perhaps there are fewer springtails in this material now. It definitely seems that way, doesn't it? Is it just my imagination? I'd love to hear some feedback on that if others feel the same way. If you've been watching, it seems to me like we've maybe come out of the woods over here. I'll tell you, I don't know. Just sort of a gut feeling I have that maybe we've got fewer springtails now. And you know, I'm having second thoughts about how we want to deliver today's feeding. You could see some leftovers here. This must be some leftover cucumber, because the other thing was banana. But there's what appears to be a pretty large quantity of seemingly recyclable bedding material here. So adding those coffee filters in could just be a little bit overkill, but maybe we can at least oh, okay. Perhaps we've just zeroed in on something that the springtails really like nibbling on, because yeah, this must, maybe it was the banana that they liked, because the other container that we just looked at, or at least the other wrapper here, didn't seem quite as mobbed with springtails, but this piece right here does look pretty crowded. You know, all things considered, compared to what we've seen in here in the past with the number of springtails, unless we find that this piece of newspaper is just loaded with them, I'm going to start getting that feeling like maybe we're finally not rid of them per se, because I'm not looking to be rid of anything in particular. But with the springtails, it would be nice to see fewer of them. See if we can kind of help with my hand that I try to keep a little bit cleaner. So the springtails definitely made their way in after this banana peel. Same story with that cucumber. Perhaps not so much as what we can see with the banana peel though. I'm starting to think that putting in extra coffee filters today is not going to be necessary. To supplement bedding, we've definitely almost kind of gone overboard in the last feeding with adding all this bedding material, because that's really what it all is. A lot of people will think of bedding material as needing to be, you know, fine and shredded and cocoa core or stuff out of your paper shredder or something, but it can be just about anything really. Anything that'll kind of eventually, oh look at that, break down. But here again, it doesn't seem like when we opened up the last cucumber wrap that we saw much worm action either, so I'm not sure what it is. Must be the banana that they're really coming for. Every time I see one that's really heavily loaded with the springtails, it seems like the banana is what we find in there, or what's left of it, just a little bit of banana peel. Huh? Check this one out though. This one was pretty busy with springtails. Perhaps not so busy, but good number of them over there on the paper. And this one is one of the cucumbers, I believe. So, making me wonder if there's really a favorite between the two, or what it could be. Another good bunch of springtails in this one. Perhaps the most we've seen so far. Oh my goodness, they're just falling off like sand. Let's grab the close-up camera one more time and take a quick peek at what's happened on this piece of material. Be interesting to see. As long as the close-up camera's running and we still don't know what's in this, I figured maybe we do like a close-up reveal of what this little bundle had inside of it. I think I could feel stuff, which kind of tells me it must have been the banana, right? Because the banana peel still shows up as, you know, an obvious recognizable material, whereas the cucumber kind of just remained as a little bit of a smear. But here too, you can see a little bit of springtail activity on the banana peel. There's the stem of it too, right? Not too surprising. that brings us to, what did we do with the last banana peel? I think we just sort of left it in the paper that it had been bundled in previously. And I think we'll do the same here, just for consistency's sake. We're still left with one more bundle to explore. It seems like we've been kind of alternating, switching on and off, so maybe that last one is going to be a cucumber soaked piece of newspaper. Yeah, look at all this bedding. We've even got little bits of this what is that? Little bits of paper towel here too. Alright. Yeah, we're definitely just going to recycle this bedding here and add the food supply for today. I'm starting to wonder how long this video is going to take because I keep getting distracted with stuff that's just hard for me to see with my, naked eye, and using the close-up camera to try to get a closer look at it. Not to mention I like speeding up the footage, as you've seen, to get some of these slow-moving critters to reveal kind of what they like to do or how they operate and how they move. Like this piece of paper here. Good number of springtails hanging out on it, wouldn't you say? Besides staring at the springtails, I also noticed right around where all the cucumber had smeared onto the paper what appeared to be a whole bunch of mites, I believe, or something like that. Perhaps worthy of getting the close-up camera on that, right? Let's take a closer peek. When I got the close-up lens set up that way, it's really just a filter. I can't resist trying to capture things that I normally wouldn't be able to see. So now let me think here. This is the food that I've got for them. More banana peel, potato peel, and a variety of other things. It's starting to thaw out pretty good. It was frozen solid a little while ago, and my only concern was that maybe some of these pieces would be kind of large and too frozen to be, mushable. Because I would like to see if I can sort of reconstruct what we had last time, which was food bundles, if possible. I guess if it becomes too difficult to do so, we can just sprinkle whatever remains at the end. Because it does feel to me like there's some pretty good sized chunks here that might not give. Well, no, here we go. This right here was probably one of the larger pieces that I thought might not want to slide inside of a cardboard tube. And then here too was a large object, but I think if we peel it into a couple bits, we can try to get it into one of these tubes. And this is when you start thinking to yourself, geez, wouldn't this be much easier if I just used my hand that I try to keep clean for handling the camera equipment, electronics, things like that. Sometimes I do, but here I think we could muddle by somehow. This was another fairly large object. I wondered how it would fit. So there's a good variety of stuff over here. I'm even questioning if this was potato or apple at this point, because it does have sort of an apple smell to it. But you know what? We don't have to be so precise. If we can just sort of create little mounds, more or less equally portioned. I thought that the next level would be to simply wrap each of these little care packages into a newspaper of their own. I guess I can't be so rough because I'm just pretty much just tearing away at the cardboard tubes. Look at all this yummy stuff. Globs of delicious thawing assorted vegetable matter. So let's get these little care packages fixed up. You know, if we put the leftover smears on the outside and we bundle the fresh portion, well, it's not even so fresh, right? It's sort of a combination of old and new stuff. Then this might work out well, except in this case, maybe with the banana peels, it's best to keep them inside the bundle. And I know some of this stuff is still a little bit frozen, and some of these springtails are sort of getting bundled up with the frozen materials. Hopefully they don't mind too much. So what did we end up doing with this piece of banana peel? We'll put it to that one over there. So this should be a feeding that should get them through the next 10 days quite easily, because we'll be back in here in 10 days. In 10 days, these systems will have reached 365 days of age, and I sort of made a casual promise to myself last time we were in here. Oops, these little bundles don't want to hold together, do they? My promise was to treat this continuous flow system as a continuous flow system at least one time in its service life. And that really means to not always keep feeding and supplying the bin with new contents over on the feeding end, but over on this, finished end where all the finished castings are, you're occasionally supposed to harvest some castings out of here too, which I've just never done. I just feel like maybe by the time the system, had reached the point where that would have been an option, perhaps by then we were already getting a little bit overrun with these springtails, and to me it always seemed like, harvesting a system that's just, loaded with little insects in the castings seemed like castings that didn't seem like they were quite ready to be harvested. So that might have been sort of the thinking. I can't even explain for certain why, but I thought that perhaps now finally we can reach into the finished end, the end opposite of the one we've been working in over here so far, and we'll go check that out too. But the idea was to actually come in here and do a harvest of the castings, whether it's got springtails in it or not. We sort of promised that we would. So let's get these food bundles situated. Well, that was an interesting feeding, I must say. But we're not even done yet. Oh my goodness, when will this video ever end? I was kind of feeling a little creative today, so I couldn't resist kind of running the close-up camera a little bit, and I know that I'll be fast-forwarding a good deal of this footage to try to give us better visibility into some of those slow-moving critters. And before we cover up this feeding area, I've got a little bit of my worm chow. Might make this newspaper a little bit more interesting for the worms to nibble on while they're down there, and every now and then a little grit can't hurt either. All right, everyone, let's see if we can bring a close to this check-in. There was still the matter of taking a look at how the castings that we're going to be striving to harvest next time, how they're coming along, and those would be on this far end of the bin. So my thought was to actually come in here and pretty much extract half of what's in this bin already, as far as being considered finished castings. I mean, what's here in the middle already is also pretty close to that, I believe. So if we were to just sort of simulate doing that today, what would we end up with? Is there still a great deal of worm traffic in this material? I saw one or two worms, but not many. Perhaps if we were to just do a quick stir up of this material over here, we'd end up combining a lot of the surface material that is a little bit dry with some of the more cozy damp stuff that's right beneath it. Kind of bringing the overall moisture of the combined mixture down to a point where perhaps whatever worms might have still been hanging out in it and tolerating the minimal moisture content might eventually decide to go seek out something more comfortable where there's more moisture, and that would be over where all those nice thawed veggies down in the feeding area are soaking all those delicious pieces of paper and cardboard. So this is going to be our attempt, I guess, at sending this system into the home stretch before its first harvest. And at 1 year old, I guess, for a continuous flow system to finally give up some of its product is a little bit overdue. So why don't we leave it at that? I think we're done here. We can bring back our feeding zone indicator, show us where we last fed, even provides just a little tiny extra vapor barrier over there to help keep things a little bit more moist than elsewhere in the bin. And as things out here dry further, hopefully we'll see more worms making their way over to the section of the bin where we're going to continue feeding and continue supplying the system with fresh stuff. And now we'll finally have a batch of harvested castings. All right, everyone, that's it for our check-in. Hopefully you enjoyed it. If you did, as always, please don't forget to leave me a quick thumbs up before you go. That's always very much appreciated. And if you haven't done so already, please also consider subscribing to the channel. That's very much appreciated as well. All right, everyone, thanks for watching. Have a great day. Bye now.